Lab, Tony stood at his workstation, a large holographic display surrounding him. He had dozens of designs pulled up, each floating in the air like a constellation of creativity and engineering. These weren't just rough sketches. They were ideas he had seen in his past life as Jack, designs inspired by comics, movies, fan art, and even his own imagination. "All right, boys and girls," Tony muttered to himself, cracking his knuckles. "Time to break some rules and make some history." With a swipe of his hand, he dismissed the traditional red and gold designs hovering in front of him. "I want something new, different." He pulled up a blank canvas and began sketching in 3 dimensions. His movements were precise, his focus unshakable. The suit would be entirely black, a sleek and seamless design that oozed sophistication and menace. The material? Nanites, of course. He reprogrammed the bio-nanites to adapt, self-repair, and morph into various forms depending on the situation. With Legion AI in control, they were perfectly stable. The chest piece came first. Tony made the arc reactor the centerpiece, embedding it deep within the suit's design, protected by an extra layer of plating and shield. It wasn't just a power source, it was the control hub for the nanites. The black plating around it had a subtle, matte finish, broken only by thin, glowing veins that radiated outward like spiderwebs. These veins would serve as conduits for energy, channeling power to different parts of the suit. Next came the helmet. He opted for a streamlined, minimalist design with no visible seams. The faceplate would feature glowing blue slits for eyes. He then added the HUD system that would provide him with real-time data, enhanced vision modes, and even neural uplinks for faster processing. "Now, weapons," Tony said, leaning forward as he activated a new section of the display. "Let's get creative." He allocated the last remaining vibranium to the suit's offensive and defensive systems. From the comics and fan art in his memories, he pulled inspiration for energy-based weapons, melee tools, and even shields. Using the nanites, he designed an arsenal that could be summoned at will. Repulsor blasts. The palms and forearms housed powerful energy emitters capable of firing concentrated repulsor beams. Energy blades. The nanites could morph into sharp, glowing blades extending from the forearms or wrists. They were reinforced with vibranium for maximum durability. Kinetic shielding. A deployable vibranium-based energy shield could materialize in front of him, capable of absorbing and redistributing kinetic energy. Nanite swarm mode. A unique feature that allowed a portion of the nanites to detach from the suit, forming drones or small tools for reconnaissance and repair, flight and mobility. The boots and back housed thrusters powered by the arc reactor. They were fully integrated into the suit, allowing for silent flight and unmatched agility. Laser beams. Limited usage beams capable of cutting through anything. Mini-missiles. Heat-seeking mini-missiles capable of destroying an entire town at 100% output. He also added a couple of extra touches for non-lethal takedowns. Tony stepped back from the holographic design, taking a moment to admire his work. The suit was sleek, efficient, and utterly terrifying. The black finish gave it an almost predatory look, while the subtle blue glow of the arc reactor and energy veins looked just awesome and scary. Next, he did a little customization to his arc reactor to house the nanites. He added an extra circular housing around it. It didn't take much time. "All right," he muttered. "Time to see if the real deal lives up to the hype." He activated the nanite swarm in the containment field. The tiny machines surged toward the arc reactor, flowing like liquid metal as they merged with the new housing. The reactor pulsed with energy, and the nanites began to compress and reshape. Within minutes, the process was complete. The arc reactor, now embedded with trillions of nanites, rested on a pedestal in the center of the room. Tony approached it, taking a deep breath. All the calculations, safety measures, and other protocols. Everything was perfect according to him. He knew that it was going to work 100%. He could just visualize it. "Here goes nothing," he said as he touched the reactor, activating the suit-up protocol. The nanites responded instantly, flowing over his hand and up his arm. Within seconds, they had enveloped his entire body, forming the black suit he had designed. The process was seamless, almost organic. He felt no weight, no restriction. The helmet formed last as the HUD came online. Tony's vision was replaced by a high-resolution display, complete with diagnostic readouts, environmental scans, and tactical overlays. He moved his hands experimentally, watching as the energy veins glowed brighter with each motion. "Damn," he whispered, his voice amplified by the suit's built-in comms. "I look good." He activated the repulsors in his palms, feeling the little humming sound. With a flick of his wrist, a glowing blue blade extended from his forearm. He swung it experimentally, marveling at its precision. "I'm a freaking genius. It's like a dream come true." "Let's test the mobility," Tony said, activating the thrusters in his boots. He hovered a few feet off the ground, the suit responding effortlessly to his commands. He pushed harder, zipping around the lab in tight circles before landing smoothly. "Not bad," he said, smirking beneath the helmet. "Not bad at all." The suit deconstructed as easily as it had formed, the nanites retreating back into the arc reactor. Tony held the reactor in his hands, feeling the weight of his creation, not just physically, but metaphorically. This was more than a suit. It was the culmination of everything he had worked for, a tool that could change the world or save his life. "All right, Legion," Tony said, placing the reactor back on its pedestal. "Suit's done. Now let's move on to Phase 2. Time to test the weapon system. Hermes, open up that empty room and set up some targets. Use the robots and drones we made this year. It's time to check how good they stand against this new bee." "Affirmative." The AI responded, the lab word to life as Hermes responded to Tony's request. Initiating training room assembly, the AI stated in its crisp, calm tone. Panels along the walls began to shift and rearrange, revealing hidden compartments housing advanced machinery. Mechanical arms extended, assembling what looked like a futuristic shooting range on one side and a simulated urban battlefield on the other. In the center, a spacious open area with holographic emitters and projectors formed, capable of creating various scenarios. Estimated time to completion, 30 minutes, Hermes added. Tony glanced at the display showing the progress. "Good. Gives me time to calibrate the energy systems," he said, walking over to his workstation. He activated the arc reactor, placing it into a custom testing cradle that synced it with the lab's mainframe. A holographic interface appeared, displaying real-time data on the nanites' functionality and energy distribution. "All right, let's make sure these little guys don't blow me to kingdom come," Tony muttered. He ran diagnostics on the suit's energy weapons, tweaking the power output for each system, repulsor blasts. He adjusted the charge levels for different scenarios, from non-lethal bursts to full-power beams capable of punching through reinforced steel energy blades. He configured the blades to alternate between vibranium reinforcement for durability and pure energy for cutting through materials at a molecular level. Kinetic shielding. Tony optimized the shield's energy absorption, ensuring it could redirect absorbed kinetic energy back into an offensive blast if needed. Mini missiles. He added targeting subroutines for heat-seeking and proximity detonation, fine-tuning their explosive radius to prevent collateral damage in tight spaces. By the time the training room was ready, Tony had calibrated everything down to the nanosecond. "Hermes, status update on the room," he called out. "Training room assembly is complete. Target dummies and holographic scenarios are ready for testing," the AI responded. Tony smirked, picking up the arc reactor. "Perfect. Time to dance." He activated the suit. The nanites immediately responded and flowed over his body once more. The black suit formed flawlessly. He flexed his fingers. "All right, Hermes," he said, stepping into the training room. "Bring out the toys. Let's see what these weapons can really do." The room came to life. Panels in the walls slid open, and out came rows of mechanized dummies, some designed to simulate human-sized enemies while others were hulking, tank-like robots with reinforced armor. Targets of varying shapes and sizes popped up in the distance. A group of drones hovered into the air, their weapon systems primed. "Engage Level 1, Tony commanded. The first wave began. 3 humanoid dummies rolled toward him on tracks, wielding batons and shields. Tony reacted instantly, raising his hands. The repulsors in his palms hummed to life, firing bright blue beams of energy that struck the first dummy square in the chest, shattering it into fragments. The second and third dummies closed in, but Tony activated the energy blades on his forearms. With a fluid motion, he slashed through them, the blades cutting cleanly through their reinforced materials. "Well, that's satisfying," he muttered, spinning the blades back into his forearms. "Let's turn it up. Hermes, Level 2. Add ranged combatants," he said. The next wave introduced drones armed with lasers. They buzzed around the room, firing beams of light in rapid succession. Tony activated his thrusters, leaping into the air with a burst of speed. The drones adjusted their aim, but he was too fast, weaving through their attacks that he raised his arm, firing a mini-missile from his wrist. It locked onto a drone, trailing it for a moment before detonating with precision, sending the wreckage tumbling to the ground. 2 more drones approached from behind, but Tony activated his kinetic shield. A shimmering, vibranium-reinforced barrier materialized in front of him, absorbing their laser fire effortlessly. With a quick command, he redirected the absorbed energy, releasing it as a powerful shockwave that knocked both drones out of the air. "How's that for efficiency?" Tony quipped, landing gracefully on the floor. "Hermes, Level 3. Mix it up, heavies and close-quarters combat," he instructed, his confidence growing. The next wave was brutal. Large, armored robots rolled into the room, their movements heavy and deliberate. They were armed with shoulder-mounted cannons and heavy machine guns. Alongside them, humanoid dummies equipped with melee weapons charged forward. Tony's HUD lit up, analyzing the new threats. He engaged the nanite swarm mode, sending a portion of the suit to detach from his back. The swarm coalesced into several small drones that flew toward the melee dummies, bombarding them with concentrated laser fire. Meanwhile, he focused on the heavies. He darted forward, using his thrusters to zigzag past their gunfire. As one of the robots charged its cannon, Tony activated his vibranium energy blade, slicing cleanly through the barrel before it could fire. Sparks erupted as the weapon short-circuited. The second heavy wasn't as easily dispatched. It swung a massive arm at Tony, who barely dodged in time. He activated the kinetic shield, blocking the next blow. The force of the impact was immense, but the shield held strong. Tony countered by firing a concentrated repulsor blast directly into the robot's exposed joints, crippling its movement. A follow-up missile to its core finished the job. "Level 3 complete," Hermes announced. Tony landed amidst the debris, breathing steadily. "That all you got, Hermes?" "Initiating Level 4, maximum difficulty. All systems engaged." The room shifted again, walls retracting to reveal more advanced robots. They were humanoid machines with high agility and integrated weapon systems. Swarms of drones filled the air, and from the far wall, a massive bipedal mech emerged, its towering frame bristling with weaponry. Tony's smirk faltered slightly. "All right, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself," he muttered. Then, straightening, he raised his hands. "Let's dance." The battle was chaos. Drones swarmed him from all sides, their coordinated attacks forcing Tony to rely on every tool at his disposal. He alternated between energy blasts, blades, and missiles, each strike calculated and precise. The humanoid machines closed in, their movements faster and more unpredictable than the earlier waves. Tony's HUD tracked their positions, giving him split-second warnings. He parried their attacks with his blades, countering with devastating repulsor blasts that sent them flying. The mech loomed over the battlefield, its cannons unleashing a relentless barrage. Tony activated his thrusters, flying straight toward it. He dodged its fire with expert precision, weaving through the air like a missile. As he neared, the mech raised a massive arm to swat him away, but Tony anticipated the move. He veered to the side, deploying his nanite swarm. The tiny machines latched onto the mech's arm, disassembling its plating and exposing its internal wiring. "Time for the big finale," he said, aiming both palms at the mech's exposed core. He charged his repulsors to maximum power, firing twin beams that bored straight through its armor. The mech shuddered, its systems failing as it collapsed to the ground. The room fell silent, save for the hum of the arc reactor. Tony hovered above the wreckage, surveying the destruction. "Level 4 complete," Hermes announced. "All systems functioning within optimal parameters." Tony deactivated the suit, letting the nanites retreat back into the arc reactor. He stood amidst the wreckage, grinning. "Hermes, log all data. I think we've got ourselves a winner." The lab was eerily silent again, save for the hum of the arc reactor sitting on its pedestal. Tony stood with his arms crossed, staring at the suit's final diagnostics on the holographic display. Everything had functioned perfectly during the tests, but he wasn't ready to take it out into the field just yet. "Never hurts to double-check," he muttered, rubbing his chin. His mind was already racing with ideas for further improvements. The neural link was solid, but he could refine the reaction times. The weapons? Deadly, but there was always room for efficiency. His instinct told him not to rush. He needed more control. More precision. If he was going to do this, he had to do it right without a mistake. "All right, Hermes," Tony said, turning back to his workstation. "Let's optimize the neural link first." The AI responded immediately. "Understood, sir. Running additional simulations to refine response times." A new series of holograms popped up, showing real-time data on Tony's brain-to-suit reaction speed. The neural uplink already functioned at a near-instantaneous level, but he wanted instant, no lag, no delay, just thought and action. He tweaked the connection between his brain and the suit's Legion AI, streamlining the nanite processing to cut down response time by another 8 milliseconds. "Better," Tony murmured. "Not perfect, but better." Next, he focused on the weapons. Though they'd performed well during the test, he added a few tweaks: repulsor variability, a modular charge system that could instantly shift between precision shots, area blasts, and EMP pulses, cloaking mode. By redistributing nanites across the surface, the suit could temporarily bend light around it, rendering Tony nearly invisible. Enhanced drones. The nanite swarm could now create autonomous microdrones capable of reconnaissance, sabotage, or serving as decoys. Silent mode, thrusters and internal mechanisms could operate at ultra-low noise levels for stealth missions. Next came the defense part. Tony double-checked and triple-checked everything and found tiny loopholes which he fixed. He made countermeasures for any unexpected disruptions, like EMPs or cyber attacks, and put Elena in charge of the countermeasure part. With Legion in charge of the nanites, Hermes taking care of the main hub and Elena in charge of defense countermeasures, nothing can hack or mess with his suit anymore. By the time he was satisfied, 3 days had passed in a blur of coding, engineering, and testing. Tony barely left the lab, running on coffee and sandwiches, and his usual stubborn refusal to sleep. Then, finally, it was time. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. The suit was ready. "All right, Legion," he said, addressing the AI within the suit. "Everything checks out?" "Diagnostics confirm all systems are fully operational," Legion responded in its calm, synthesized voice. "Good. Hermes, search for current war zones or active terrorist organizations." "Something messy." "Searching," Hermes replied. The room dimmed slightly as multiple holographic displays popped up, showcasing various conflict zones around the globe. Red markers indicated terrorist hotspots, and one caught Tony's eye. "Afghanistan," the AI said, zooming in on the map. A region rife with insurgent activity. Recent intelligence reports detailed a terrorist organization who were dealing with illegal weapons and drugs. Some reports claimed that they were also dealing with illegal organ trade and child slaves. At the present, they had taken over a small town and were using it as a base of operations. Civilians were being held hostage. The local authorities were powerless, and the military had no interest in intervening. And it's only a matter of time before they kill the civilians, cut out their organs, and sell them, and the kids will be forced to do things that will scar their minds and souls. Tony clenched his jaw. These bastards. He tapped the display, pulling up satellite footage of the base. 33 armed combatants were spread across a fortified compound. They had armored vehicles, heavy weapons, and security systems monitoring the area. "All right," Tony said, standing up. "Tonight will be their last night in the world." Night, Tony activated the suit. The nanites swarmed over him, forming the stealth black armor in an instant. He flexed his fingers, feeling the power humming beneath his skin. "Hermes, scramble all networks in a 50-mile radius around Malibu," Tony commanded. "I don't want anyone tracking this." "Scrambling now, sir," Hermes confirmed. "All systems temporarily disabled." With a pulse of energy, Tony shot into the night sky, his thrusters silent as he accelerated. He followed the map on his HUD. It was his first mission, and a big one at that. Plus, flying this high in the sky versus flying inside the training room was totally different. He didn't feel fear, but rather the thrill of excitement that he flew high above the clouds. The stars gleamed overhead, and the moon cast a soft glow on the ocean. Tony glanced back once at his city, then he turned forward and rocketed into the darkness. The flight lasted less than 2 hours. He slowed his speed and descended from the clouds, cloaking the suit with invisibility mode. He looked down at the town. Legion brought up the targets on his HUD, marking each individual target with a red outline in real time. They were scattered, patrolling the perimeter, guarding the buildings, and sitting in watchtowers. There were also some jammers around the area, but low-level tech like that was useless against Tony's suit. "Where are the hostages?" he asked. Legion immediately responded. "In the center of the town, sir. 70 civilians, all in a single building." "Copy that, let's get started then. Time to take these assholes out." He deployed the micro-drones from his back. The small, nearly invisible machines spread out, scanning the compound and relaying their data to him. 30 enemies marked. "Showtime," Tony whispered as he took the shots. In a single thought, the drones fired in perfect synchronization. 30 kills, instant execution. Tony scanned the area. 3 targets remained, high-value individuals who were coordinating operations. He landed silently in the middle of the compound. The remaining 3 had no idea death was already breathing down their necks. Tony went into the room where they were sleeping. "Sweet dreams," he muttered. He lifted his hand, and in an instant, zapped all 3 with a high-voltage, non-lethal electric shock. Their bodies twitched before going completely limp. He activated the nanites, forming reinforced restraints around the unconscious terrorists. With the remaining threats neutralized, Tony turned his attention to the hostages. He activated the suit's thermal imaging, scanning the building where they were being held. 70 civilians, men, women, and children, huddled together in fear. The room was dimly lit, and from what he could tell, they were bound with zip ties, some of them gagged. He walked to the building and saw the locked door. He extended his hand as the nanites shifted, forming a plasma cutter that burned through the metal doors like a hot knife through butter. As the doors opened, he saw the terrified faces of the civilians staring at the door. He deactivated his cloaking mode and his armor became visible. "Legion, cut their restraints," Tony ordered. The drones flew into the building, cutting their restraints. The hostages were surprised. Well, more like scared, and just stayed there. Some of the older ones crawled before the kids. Even when they were afraid of the man in the armor, they still covered the young ones, thinking that the man in the armor would kill the kids. "Who are you?" one of the older men asked, and he was using his own body to shield his daughter, who was still scared but brave enough to look at the man in the armor. "Ironman." The armored man responded, and after that, there was silence. Everyone was looking at him like he was the most craziest man they'd ever seen in their entire life. "What are you waiting for? Go on, get out of here before more of them arrive," Ironman said. "There are trucks and cars, go." The civilians hesitated. They were looking at each other, not knowing if what they heard was really true or not. After a few seconds, one of them got up. It was a woman holding her child. She walked towards Ironman, and after looking at the man in the armor with a face filled with gratitude and hope, she spoke to the man in the armor. "Thank you, Ironman," she whispered as she passed him by, bowing her head slightly before going to where her husband was. After that, one by one, the rest of the hostages stood up. They followed the woman, expressing their thanks. The younger ones even tried to hug him, but the older ones stopped them. He didn't mind it though. But for him, seeing that he saved these people made him feel warm and complete. He activated 2 drones and put them in charge of taking them out of the area. "I'm sending 2 drones with you. They'll lead you out of the area," Tony told the group. Soon, the civilians were gone. Tony made his way to the center of the compound, scanning the area. He found a computer room and entered. Legion accessed the networks, downloading files and hacking into their systems. The AI began its search, combing through the information and analyzing it. Tony frowned beneath his mask. There were names, locations, and transactions. Enough information to put these bastards behind bars. He copied all of it onto his suit's memory and then sent the data back to his private network. "Hermes, upload these files to S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony said. "Let them clean up this mess." "Acknowledged," Hermes responded. With that done, Tony tied up those terrorists together, put oxygen masks on them thanks to his bio-nanites, and flew back to the base with them dangling in the air. By the time he reached Malibu, Hermes had finished scrambling the security systems. No cameras, no radar, no satellites, nothing to detect his arrival. Tony landed smoothly, releasing the restrained terrorists in a secured holding cell beneath his lab. Not bad for a test run, he mused, looking over his handiwork, the black suit deconstructed, retreating into the arc reactor, leaving Tony standing in his workshop. He stretched, letting out a tired sigh. One problem solved. 1,000,000 more to go. This story continues. Subscribe to the channel for the remaining episodes. Thank you for watching and liking the channel.